This is lesson 34, decimal place value for course 1. Now, you might have heard me say in a previous lesson, when we write a number, let's say 2, there is a decimal. We just don't write it because we're lazy. But there is, in fact, an invisible decimal right there, all the time after the ones column. The reason we have that decimal is to be able to tell us we are now going out of whole numbers. Okay, now there are infinite decimal places this way, just as there are infinite number places, whole number places that way. We are only going to look at the first 3. So this decimal, to start with, says and. Okay, so 2 and something. Okay, this place is the tenths. This is the hundredths. And this is the thousands. Okay, it has that at the end of the word, but otherwise said the same. So tenths, hundredths, thousandths. You're going to sound a little bit like snakes. Okay, so if I'm doing this, my fraction for these, because remember these are no longer whole numbers, this side is whole numbers, this side is not whole numbers. So this is tenths, hundredths, thousandths. All right, so if I wrote 2 and these are the fraction equivalents. So this is 2 and 111 thousandths. Okay, so you say it as if it's a group of numbers like that, and then the word you say of these is the last one you land on. So this is 111 thousandths. If I had this would be 2 and 11 hundredths. Okay, because you say the last place you land on. If I have the number speaking, this is 35 hundredths. Okay, because remember tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and you say the column that has the last digit in it. This is the last digit, so it is in the hundredths column. So you'd say 3 and 35 hundredths. If I had this would be 3 and 365 thousandths, because you only say that last place. Otherwise, the number is said normal, and you always make sure that this decimal is and. Okay, that's what it says. The reason we do that is because we're now going into, as I said, not whole numbers. These are now fractions of a number, so they are not whole. Okay, now if you notice up here, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, the farther this way you go, the smaller the number is. So if you were comparing 2 fifths, okay, so comparing 2 and 5 tenths, or 2 and 5 tenths to 2 and 5 hundredths, you would be looking at the 5 hundredths is actually smaller. This one is larger, okay? Because the farther this way you go, the smaller the number is. Just like if you were writing 105 versus 150, the more this way you go, the smaller the number is. So that means this one is bigger, okay? Because the smaller you go in the plate, the more this way you go in places, the smaller the number becomes. It's the same way with decimal places. The more this way you go, the smaller the number. That is lesson 34, decimal place value for course 1.